9 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Are we on?
We are back.
Oh, we're back. We had a phone call while we were off the air. They wanted to know when we came back on. And we are back on. You want to talk about Seth?
Well, some interesting things have come out in the Seth Rich case it's really starting to get interesting. Mr. Rich was reportedly robbed, then shot. Well, it gets a little bit more interesting. First off, we have 4 unanswered questions that are surrounding his death. If he was murdered in a robbery gone wrong, why was his wallet, his watch, and his phone left? I can assure you folks.
Look, I just got this.
I can assure you folks that
There's no accident.
Mr. Rich would have had his phone taken if it in fact had been one of my clients doing the robbery, because the phone is the primary. Everybody wants the iPhone. Everybody wants one. Then, going a little deeper, why hasn't the DNC offered a reward for any information related to the murder? You know, because numerous groups have offered information. WikiLeaks, I think, offered a $10,000 reward. Third, why are the left wing and the mainstream media ignoring the case? And if you go and take a look at it, there are articles that do appear to look at it, but they refer to his death as a conspiracy theory. And fourth, will the Democrats still push that Russia hacked the DNC?
They're not going to give that up.
Ignoring the fact that Assange stated on numerous occasions it was not Rich. Well, then it gets even more interesting. We get into the situation here with Rich that the family retained former D.C. detective Rod Wheeler, who is a regular Fox News contributor. Now, Wheeler found out some interesting things. He has access to friends of his who still work in the D.C. Bureau of the Police Department Homicide Unit. They were told to stand down on the Seth Rich investigation. He was rather surprised, and they would not go into detail where that order came from. Then the other half of this situation is that the FBI currently has the computer, and it is known that Seth Rich sent 44,053 DNC emails to WikiLeaks. And it gets even more interesting because right after he was dead, that the outing of Podesta and other people had to come from other sources that they were able to verify. So in fact, WikiLeaks was getting their information from this guy. So basically, what happened is Rich was murdered by the Clintons, another Clinton dead body, to basically shut him up to try to plug the leak of the DNC that was going to WikiLeaks and being outed. This is another unsolved Clinton murder. The FBI under Comey is fully complicit as a principal to the crime because they know who did it, they know why it was done, and Comey should be prosecuted as a principal to the crime for covering up the evidence of the crime, the body of the crime, full well knowing the whole situation. The whole situation. Now, in going into the situation with Rod Wheeler, it's also interesting because it seems to be that the family has been threatened of Seth Rich because they hired Rod Wheeler to be a private investigator to investigate all of this stuff. Well, when he went in and actually did the investigation, now the family has come out and they are saying something else. And they are fully aware of Wheeler's findings and are fully knowledgeable of all of the implications. So the only thing that we can say, folks, is that these people are in fear of their lives from Democratic operatives. And again, as we've said in the past, Hillary's hit teams are more successful than SEAL Team 6 and the Russian Mafia because they never get caught, they're never prosecuted, and in fact, the FBI stands up and defends them. Yeah. So that's where we are right now. Now, there is one bright light in all of this, and it doesn't look bright right now, but it may be. The Department of Justice under Rothstein has caved and brought in a special prosecutor. Now, you and I both know that a special prosecutor will not find anything on Trump unless they're corrupt and they make it up, because there's nothing to find, because they haven't found anything in the whole time this has all been going on.
Even when you have a Feinstein saying...
Correct. But Robert Mueller, former FBI director, can go and look at anything he wants with his staff. He is not under the control of anybody. And there's a lot to be found with election fraud. There's a lot to be found in this Seth Rich death, which he can investigate. Hillary's got 30 years of dirt. You just have to pick one of the, I guess now it's up to about 14 different major issues. Benghazi. They can go and look at the cover-up of Benghazi if they want. That's the danger of a special prosecutor. Trump doesn't have any dirt for them to look at. He hadn't been there long enough, and he hasn't done anything illegal. In fact, the big issue with the Democrats is they're mad because he does follow the law, and they want dirty things to be done. But the Obama administration, the first major felony, the unmasking, Comey lied on a FISA wiretap warrant to get that warrant to surveil Trump under false pretenses. Susan Rice illegally uses intelligence apparatus to unmask Trump people and other individual citizens. So, he can look at all of this and file charges on it. And Rothstein will probably accept the charges and move forward. So, folks, I don't think Chuck U. Schumer and Feinstein and Pelosi should be dancing the Irish jig just yet.
They worried. And so, rightfully so. You have the special and prosecutor now, and you have Jeff Sessions, who is far from the other idiots that were in there. And if I was them, I'd be worried. They probably got everything they need. All they needed to do was get rid of Comey. Seriously, if they get rid of Comey, they got nobody in their pocket that's going to block
And the
anything.
interesting thing about Comey was alleged to have had a very clean, nonpartisan, upstanding reputation. Well, folks, he did everything he could to go the opposite. From the internal issues to the cover-ups to the scandals, to lying to Congress. This guy came out of this thing looking like a grade 1 dirtbag and not Mr. Clean as he was supposed to have been, alleged.
Putting it mildly.
Yeah. So.
Every day. The other day I open up my Facebook in the morning, and they have a post in there. The House started impeachment process against Trump, and
Well, they can
right away,
throw
red flags.
they can throw that word around, and they can throw the 25th Amendment around all they want.
But he hasn't done anything.
They had Bill Clinton cold. They had Bill Clinton cold, and it didn't work. So, folks, this is just FBI lies, Democrat rhetoric. And again, they've got to keep the Russian thing alive because they had all the voter fraud they could get.
They have nothing.
Well, no, they're keeping it alive because that's all they've got.
Yeah, but what did Trump just form?
Panel to investigate voter fraud. And by the way, they said something interesting. They are going to use Department of Homeland Security records of identities of illegals and match that to voter records and voter registrations. And then they can go after the people who did the registrations and charge them for election tampering, which is a felony crime. Lock them all up. I think they ought to put them all in Guantanamo. Better yet, any U.S. citizen they catch who aided illegals in getting voting, we should put them on a boat and we should take them to the southern end of Mexico and dump them off, and then come back and let them find their way back.
Oh,
Well,
they'll find their way back.
not the U.S. citizen people. They might have a hard time. The illegals might, but the citizens will have a hard time. They don't speak any Spanglish.
But you see, Trump is, it's an interesting thing, and you and I were talking about it. He's done a lot of the things he said he was going to do. There's certain things that he can't do.
Not by himself, like
Not by
Obamacare.
himself. Obamacare.
He can't do that by himself. He can't do the wall by himself.
No.
But anything that he has been able to do by himself by executive order, he's done. He's got the gas industry, the coal industry, and the oil industries all back kicking by taking all those regulations off, opening up drilling. He's opened up drilling on the East Coast that has never been available before.
Well, and the other thing, you were talking, and I travel a lot. I'm seeing a lot of trucks with pipe,
Drill pipe and board road.
drill pipe, and the big stuff.
Our friend the Goat Man says, when you see that, people are drilling. The thing that people did not pick up on is that the rest of the country under Obama was hurting, and we were still doing pretty good until he turned the EPA loose on the fracking and the oil and gas industry. And once he turned the EPA loose, that is when you'll notice the rest of the country started coming back, but we went down the sewers, and Lafayette had the highest unemployment in the South, if not in the nation, after that was done.
Well, and here's the other thing. I just saw an article. They found several fields of windmills not doing any windmilling.
That's because they don't work.
They don't work.
None of the little green Save the Planet projects have ever proved any efficiency.
My question is how much money did we fork out for
Well,
that?
we know that the Solyndra Solar Project under Obama's buddies made billions, and when it went bust, we paid for it. So the Obama cronies left with their pockets full of money. Obama's personal fortune after he left the White House was increased by 438%. So he goes in there.
Actually, more than that, but he wasn't even worth $1 million.
Well, that's the figures I've got, was 438%.
And
And 5 luxury houses.
His worth was $14 million when he left the White House.
That's what
And
they're
it
not.
wasn't even $1 million or $2 million when he went in.
And the other thing is 5 luxury houses, some in foreign countries,
Yeah, well, he didn't
all paid
pay-
for.
He didn't pay for those.
Well, but they all still count for your wealth, though.
Oh, yeah. But the whole thing is he better cozy up to the one in Dubai.
Non-extradition treaty.
And you don't hear much, which is good. And then, of course, you had Michelle Obama that was criticizing Trump and the people for the lunch. Do you understand how much stuff I read about the lunches that she was forcing these kids to eat?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really? Like one person said, she was sort of a lawyer and she has no idea about nutrition, period. My question was, had she looked in the mirror lately from the backside?
They didn't have any mirrors in the White House because the Wicked Witch of the West face would break them.
Okay, moving on. I spent a good portion of my day yesterday at the illustrious Capitol. It was really, the committee meeting was supposed to start at 9:30, which they never start on time. It was after 10 o'clock. This has to do with the gas tax. I thought it was interesting. Oh man, I'm going to sneeze. The gas tax right now is 16 cents. Actually, it's 20 cents. which means total with the feds, we're paying 38.4%. Oh, man.
Which is ridiculous in its own regard. See, Jim's allergic to the bull crap from politicians, so every time they mention the tax, he starts a sneezing fit. It happens. We've tried to get him bull manure repellent, but we can't get him a suit thick enough to repel it from the politicians in Baton Rouge, so he'll just have to keep the handkerchief handy.
It was interesting once it started. And this is how they do things at these committee meetings.
Oh, you mean they lie?
Well, but this is how they set it up. The four people for the bill
Oh, yeah.
speak first.
Well, of course.
Now, one Acadiana, and you're going to get outed here because you lied. Got up there, Mr. El Kubi, got up there, and he's testifying. And if I'd have done what I wanted to do, I'd have got kicked out.
What do you call that? They call that liifying?
Yeah. And he was talking about his organization and how they formed a coalition and, one Acadiana.
Bunch of liars.
And eight other parishes.
Oh, and they've run him out of every other parish.
Just about. And how then when you look at their donor list, just go look at their donor list, 99% of the donors are Lafayette. Anyways, he starts talking and he says, we usually don't promote taxes. And I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because I wanted to say, liar, liar, pants on fire. So I didn't testify for another hour. And during that time, my divisive and little perverted mind was at work. How am I going to get at them? Because I can't say their name. So what I did was I went back, and this was into most of my talk. Actually, what I was amazed about is they didn't cut anybody off, which is something new in Baton Rouge. So I said, what we need to do is understand why people are upset about taxes, because all we hear is taxes, taxes, and taxes.
They're upset because it keeps digging in their wallet.
And so I said, let's look at the last election. I said, I have friends all over the state. And I said, one of them in Calcasieu Parish told me they had 2 major renewal bills. They failed.
All the taxes are failing.
Ones. They failed. I said, then you come down I-10 to Lafayette. And we had 3 renewal tax bills on there and a 1/2-cent sales tax. 2 of those failed. And one of them, the 1/2-cent sales tax, a certain organization promoted that tax with $100,000, and guess what? It failed. Now they knew. And I said, then over in Tangipahoa Parish, they had 2 major renewals, and they failed. So what are you people looking at? You want to pass a tax? I said, if this thing has to be voted on, it ain't going nowhere.
Oh, speaking of that, good comrade Julie Stokes, representative, claims she did her own poll, and 54% of Louisianans want the gas tax, and this moonbat communist is running for treasurer. Moon Griffon was all over it because Bernie Pincinat did his own survey.
67%.
Higher than that. He's looking at 73% of Louisiana and said they don't want any new taxes.
That was another moment in that in that thing, and I did bring that up, that the 2 polls I saw were in the 60s against this tax.
Bernie's was up in the 70s.
And so when I went back to my seat, I wasn't real welcome. A couple rows
Let me
back.
guess, if those bunch had been Medusa, you'd be salt by now.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, listening, the highways need to be, they are in bad shape. But that's because of this. And I got into it with a couple of those, what do they call them? Guys that are paid to go over there and talk for other companies.
Lobbyists?
Lobbyists. And the guy tells me, no, your figure's wrong on the 11%. And I said, what do you mean my figure's wrong on 11%? That's what it is. He said, no, it's 14%. And I go, are you kidding me? We're talking about 3%. So what you're saying is that it's okay for the other 86% to go somewhere else, not for the roads. So that 20 cents we're paying is not going where it should go.
And here's the rub. Here's the rub, Jim. Multiple sources on Carol Ross and the Moon Griffon show have openly stated they still can't account for where all that money went.
No.
They still can't. Now, we know state police got a big chunk for raises and those big fancy
You wanna know
cars
how
and
much?
stuff.
You want to know how much?
Uh-huh.
Over 600 million since
1991.
19 in the 1990s. Over 600 million.
Yep, Carol had the
How many
figures.
bridges would that build? How many roads would that repair? So
And
that and the lady that was sitting there, she says, "Man, you really are knowledgeable."
And Jim, you left out the other part. During all of that time period, I was an employee of the state of Louisiana, and I can assure you, my agency, Department of Health and Hospitals, Mental Health, and several other agencies were not, I repeat, were not getting that money. So I would like to know where all this money was going into this big magic sinkhole with a flush handle on it, because somebody was getting freaking rich off this stuff while the rest of us suffered.
Well, now the new bill.
Oh, God.
It was. I'm sitting there going, accountability.
They won't put any
the bill.
accountability. They never have before.
So one of the things I read through the bill, one of the things I caught in there, that 50% of it would be dedicated for major projects, highways and stuff, bridges. And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. You're going to raise it 17 cents and only 50%.
Again.
Well, evidently, somebody made that point, because I was going to nail that. And what they did is they broke down how the rest of the money was going to be spent. And none of it, quote unquote now, none of it was going to be spent for any administrative stuff nor other organizations.
Wait. Hold on, Jim. I'm going to hold my breath because it's not going to happen.
Well, so, and I was reading through the list. I have all that. We don't have time really basically to go into that. And I'm going like, yeah, right. You know, so our boy Ivy finally showed up and he talked about the accountability and how they want to have a website to where we can go to and see where every penny's spent. And I'm going, that's going to happen.
I wonder.
How do we know just because it says that on the website that it really did go there?
Jim.
I'm sorry. I sound like I'm a
skeptic?
A skeptic, but I think I probably, with thousands of other people,
Well, you know, Jim,
have that feeling.
You know, Jim, I bet they have the same accountability standard when Big Lake Jim Fannin used DOT bulldozers, backhoes, and drag lines to dig those lakes in North Louisiana and use state money to buy the property all around there so his relative could come in and develop it, and together they could sell lakefront property dug up by state money and state equipment. I bet they had the same accountability there too. I bet so.
And it's
I bet so.
So they talked about all that.
That's that same accountability, Jim.
Then Julie Stokes did her thing, and I mean, you have to see this woman, but
Jim, they had the same accountability on the trip to San Diego too.
oh yeah,
They were fully accountable. Hell, Edmondson signed off on the thing. He signed it. He approved it.
yeah. Yeah.
You know, the falsification of the overtime and the $500 hotel and the $100 meals and all this stuff.
You see, and so you sit there and you listen to these people testify. Now, and what I'm going to tell you is that these are some of this stuff I thought about. You know, once we got past the I want the tax guys, we got down to the real people. And a 17-year-old got up there and spoke.
Really?
Yes. And it's pretty awesome. He is the head of the 17 and 18-year-old young Republicans.
Excellent.
I sat back there and said, whoa, this kid was knowledgeable.
He's a rarity.
He had no fear. And he told
Wow.
him, I'm 17 and 18, and I'm going to have to pay this the rest of my life.
Oh, yes.
And he said, and he went into all kinds of stuff. He
Knew his business.
He knew his business.
Excellent.
And I'm like, he walked back up after he talked. I reached out and shook his hand, and I talked to him afterwards. But the thing is, when you started listening to the people, these are things I thought about. Let's say a truck driver's coming from Texas, and he gets to the Texas-Louisiana border.
Mm-hmm.
We just raised our tax 17 cents a gallon.
He'll fuel up in orange before he comes across.
He'll fuel up in orange and be able to drive all the way. We know they got them big tanks on there. Drive all the way across Louisiana and not buy any fuel in Louisiana.
Fill up in Mississippi.
Well, did you guys think about that? No.
Now, here's another thing.
Here's the other thing. They stop and eat. Okay? When they fuel up. Or they stay at a truck stop overnight. You watch.
Now,
these are all things that
Jim,
are going to affect.
Add to that, oil field companies will do the same thing with their equipment because a lot of their offices are in Texas now. They moved because of the tax problems. So what are they going to do? When they're running stuff through here, their 18-wheelers are going to do the same thing, hauling all of the oil field equipment that we're going to lose out on.
And the do-gooders for the tax, they brought up the thing, and I told you the guys, and I'm going to tell the people. They talked about how the cars spend over $2,000 a year to repair their cars because of the bad roads.
Well, why is that our problem now? Why has it hadn't been a problem for 30 years?
And
Why now?
Here's what I told them. I must be an exception to the rule. I said, because 2 cars ago, I got rid of that car at 199,000 miles. I said, now the car before the one I have now, I had 223,000 miles on it, and it was running perfectly. I said, you see what I did, and I learned a long time ago is, I have my oil changed every 3,000 to 5,000 miles.
Correct.
And when they change the oil, you go to a reputable place, not a quick oil change. You go to an actual shop, they do a 22-point inspection on your car, and they'll let you know if something's wrong. They have it up on the rack. They can look at the drive chain, the tires, brakes, anything. I said, and the only reason I don't have that car with 223,000 miles on it
Is it a wreck?
was because I was parked to turn left and some idiot decided to hit me head on. And you know they don't repair cars with 223,000 miles on it.
It's not worth it.
But what I'm saying is that's not all. That's one of those, oh yeah, and they pound you with that
Jim,
stuff.
you know what that sounds like? That's akin to the school board running tapes of little kids running in the rain.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
I told my mother
And
about
an
that.
angry school teacher.
I told my mother about that, and we both laughed because we're both graduates of USL. And we both had to make, in our time, the run from the Griffin Hall for English all the way to Girard, all the way to the other side to the psych building in the rain. And we're all still in good health, and we're all still here. So running in the rain for little Cajuns is okay. They're waterproof.
You know, shame on them. But and the other thing is that I mean, what are people like One Acadia, what is their interest? I can see a lady said she has a small business. She has 6 or 8 delivery trucks.
What's going to break her?
I'll tell you what, I figured it out. I average about 25,000 miles a year, close business miles. So you take that times 17 cents, you know what that comes out to?
It's a lot of money.
$425. So it cuts into my bottom line.
But you know what, Jim? Brett Guyman brought out a very interesting point about all of this. In all of this talk, in all of this budget nonsense, he still hadn't heard the 3-letter word, cut. All they want to do is raise, 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 raise. Nothing is getting cut. Nobody is losing any money. Everybody is still making all of the big bucks, you know. Jay Darden still making his $250,000 or so a year and stuff like that. None of those salaries are being reduced. Nobody's losing any money.
No,
You know?
and I will say this, and Brett was at our meeting, and said that he was proud of some of the people over there that are trying to make changes.
Well, that's like our friend Julie Emerson. She is part of the party of no. That's the way they're known. And I got to give...
He's one of the youngest ones over there, too.
And I got to give Julie, and I got to give the other Republicans, the 53 Republicans or so, that are holding the line. Folks, they are a credit to the conservative movement, and they are doing their jobs. Now, on the other hand, there's a certain person in Lafayette by the name of Jean-Paul Cousson, who seems to have never met a tax he didn't like.
He said that isn't true.
Well, I tend to believe Moon more than I believe
I'm just telling you what
Cousson. I talk to Moon when I see him in public, and Moon has his finger on the pulse. And he said Mr. Cousson has never met a tax that he didn't like and wouldn't vote for. So, Mr. Cousson, you better be careful how you vote on this issue, because your territory is right here in the middle of Lafayette. We're sitting in the middle of Lafayette. Your political career could be very short.
That's what I told several people yesterday.
Your political career
at the Capitol, that I
could
have
be
a
short.
2-hour show on TV.
So, Mr. Cousson, if you're listening,
don't want to go push the wrong buttons.
you hear that, Mr. Cousson? Remember the name Bustani. He is no longer in D.C., and you could be sent home from...
I want to tell you about
from Baton Rouge as well.
ironic thing about this bill. The guy that wrote it is Steve Carter. Steve Carter was the House Education Committee chair. So I got up there and testified at the end, and I saw him looking at me.
Yeah, he knows you.
And so afterwards I went down, and he goes, I was trying to figure out where I knew you. He said, you were one of those fireballs in the Education Committee
Against
when I was
Common Core.
chairman against Common Core. And I went, yeah, just like that. And I did do that. And he goes, yeah, that's about right. But it's nice that you can joke, you know. I told him, as far as I'm concerned, this gas tax is going nowhere.
Well, these people
He
had better
said,
consider
we'll
it.
see. I said, I'm telling you right now. it's
These
going
people
nowhere.
had better seriously consider the damage that was done to Charles Bustani, because they can get sent home. Their voting record, like Moon says, will follow them around and haunt them like a ghost in the middle of the night. And it ain't gonna go away. And Mr. Cousson, you're from Lafayette. We're broadcasting to your constituents.
Yeah, exactly.
They ain't gonna like knowing what your voting record is if you vote for the gas tax
He voted right the other day. But
for once.
well, not a tax bill, but HB 71, the one that caused all the fuss. Here's the thing. This is going to the House floor now. Due to my sources, I understand there are already 53 committed no's.
Let's hope they stand strong.
And let's hope they stay there. The vote in the committee was 9-7. And four Republicans that we so named
We outed.
and Julie's
vote made the difference.
She made the difference.
Yes.
And the thing is, they have to get 70 yeses to pass.
Let us hope
I'm trying to
that,
think. There's 39 in the Senate. It's 142, I think, altogether. So it's 103. So if there are 53 noes already, and some of those noes are Democrats, by the way.
well, they're smart, because this thing is not good.
So you have another 50, you can't get there.
You
Now,
can-
that's now. What happens between the time it goes on the floor and now is that this is gonna raise totally $700 million. Again, we're gonna give them $700 million.
More dollars to waste, because they haven't done anything constructive with what they got.
You know, you sit there, you listen to all the gobbledygook. And I met a representative from Bossier, a girl stuck to her guns. I mean, she was sitting in the front row and she voted no. And she's a Republican from up there. And then you got our buddy, you know.
John Bell Obama.
This is what he does. This is how they do things. How they get you to think. State faces shortage of dollars for construction projects. We need that tax money. Complicating Governor Edwards' job. And it says here, as far back as the governors have rewarded and punished states by doling out or withholding state money for local bridges, roads, sewage systems, and the like. This is what they do. They threaten. Now, they don't tell you.
This is like the big boys when they say the Republicans are going to push Granny off the cliff and take away the Medicaid and Medicare and benefits.
Now, here's another thing that happened, and the TOPS thing now is fully funded. And they took $82 million from health care.
They always steal it from healthcare.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Healthcare got like $500 million increase last year.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
That's
Uh-huh.
insane.
Okay?
That's insane.
Okay, now.
So they stole it from the
they
increase.
took- Yeah, they took back 82 million. No services are gonna be lost. Nothing's
It's
gonna
like
happen
it's
bad, but all you hear was, they cut healthcare.
It's like Guyman said, they're just taking it off the increase. They're not cutting any, there's no
they
true
didn't
cut.
anything,
No true
but they
cuts.
had to tell you where they took the money from to refund. And I'm saying, okay, that's good. Now, one of the things that happened with TOPS is 2.5 GPA, that's what you had to have before.
Did they raise it?
Yes, they did. They went to 2.75.
It should still be higher.
I said 3.0.
Yep.
I would have never got TOPS.
Well,
Not in high school.
the
anyway.
problem is, Jim, that this top stuff is going to people who should not be in college. There are
Well,
people who should not be in
I
college.
think that that hopefully, from what I've read about it, they're gonna be a lot more stricter, quote unquote.
And we need to close some of those colleges. I think that they should go and examine the graduation rate at these colleges, and these New Orleans colleges that are only graduating 3%. It's time to shut them down.
Come on, Rick. Got time for this. Here was what you said before.
Yeah, there's 75%.
Disapproval. 63% of it strongly disapproval against a paltry 22% approval would be the longest of long shots. President, how do you say his
Bernie
name?
Pincinat.
Pincinat of Southern Media Research released his own poll which showed the gas tax hike polling a little better, getting thrashed by 29 to 67 in the survey.
Mm-hmm.
How you get 2/3 House vote for a bill 2/3 of the public in multiple polls disapproves of is beyond us. See, I'm telling you why one Acadiana was over there. They want that I-49 built in Lafayette. And they think out of this money, they'll get the money to do it. Phew. You know, it's like, and then the matching fund stuff
With the feds.
from the feds. And I'll tell you what, this lady was pretty sharp. She got up there and she said, okay, you're saying we're gonna lose, if we don't have enough money in 2018, we're gonna lose our matching funds from the government. She says, you know what, we're paying a double tax. She said, we're paying the gas tax and we pay taxes to the federal government. So it's actually our money that you're getting back or you're gonna lose. And I thought, that's awesome, lady, way to go.
Yep.
You know, at least I didn't make the newspaper this time. He probably left by the time I talked. But, I mean, Edwards gas tax hike gets a committee hearing tomorrow. I mean, see, and here's the list of all the members on that thing. See who the ex officios are? Two useless people, Barra and Leger. You know, Averson, pretty sharp, pretty middle of the road guy, the chairman, but he did a good job. But Barry Ivy, that surprised me that he voted.
Well, they better have their boots on because we end up with the gas tax. They're gonna have it hung around their neck when they run for re-election. I'm gonna be beating a brass drum just like the Energizer Bunny. Doop, 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 doop.
Now, the other thing that I had the opportunity to be part of and listen to, one of my favorite subjects, House Bill 2. Now, remember last year when we said that was what, up around $900 million or something like that?
Mhm.
Well, it's cut in half this year. And during this discussion, some of those representatives brought up good stuff. Like, why, when we have roads that need to be repaired, are we taking care of a golf course?
And why are we paying for unpaid or unused rounds of golf? The state is paying for this. The state paid to build this golf course. Moon brought that up for years.
Here's a, you know, and things like this, Highway 91 overlay in the city limits of Eunice, $1.2 million. That, you know, that's something I feel that it should be for. Louisiana Naval War Memorial Commission, AC replacement, repair, planning, and construction, East Baton Rouge, $139,000. Okay, I can go with that. They have things in here. These are not guaranteed things. That's what they say. Here you have, these are all amendments that were in there. Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital Facility, $3.3 million.
Well, let me ask you a question.
It doesn't say
though.
what it's for, though.
Well, let me ask you this, though. The former Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital facility,
It's torn down.
there's a parking lot there.
Yeah.
Why is an empty parking lot going to cost $3.5 million?
I have no clue.
It's flat. There's grass growing.
Priority.
Or is that another deep hole that they're going to drop money in?
$2.9 million.
And they don't say what they are.
It doesn't say what it's for. See, that's the kind of stuff that you read through this. Lower Lafayette, Orange Street Basin Planning and Construction. I'll tell you what, you know, going back to the gas tax,
Okay.
that money is going to be used, some of that money is going to be used to deepen canals and waterways.
I thought that $190 million out the big FEMA trough was going to dig a nice canal instead of going to some homeowners who were supposed to get their flood stuff paid.
I liked what the one guy said. My car doesn't run very well on rivers. So why are we paying to fix rivers?
Now, this is an interesting one right here. Why is the state paying for the Henderson Municipal Complex? Why would the state be paying for that? That's a city project.
I don't know. See, that's the stuff.
Here's another one down here. The Leonville Boat Launch Facility. Well, why are we handling something that's a city project?
I know.
Why is that state money?
These were things that were brought up during this whole thing. You know, I saw some legit stuff in here.
Oh, why are we, look how much this money is. Priority two is $250,000 for the Audubon Aquarium downtown. We got bigger fish to fry than those fish.
Yeah, well, they might be closing that if people don't come. Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office.
Why would that be on our dime also?
Children's Hospital, New Orleans, Behavioral Health Hospital,
And again,
planning and construction, $1 million.
Why is that coming out of our money?
I don't know.
Opelousas Heights proposed subdivision and construction. Why would we be paying for something in Opelousas, in St. Landry Parish, from state funds?
$1.2 million.
Folks, you want to know why we have money problems? We're looking at it.
This once I started digging, and Brett said it,
We're looking at it.
it's really dangerous that you did this. He said, you understood a lot about Common Core. He says, now you're trying to figure out all this stuff? Here's another one. I don't have the pricing.
New Orleans City Playgrounds. Why are we paying for city playgrounds in New Orleans through state money? That's ridiculous.
I mean,
Instead of stealing monuments, maybe that money could have been used to fix their own darn playgrounds.
what I wanted to show you is, this was the sheet we got when I got there for this bill on the taxes. These were all the amendments. I read through those amendments and I went, dang, Jim, you're pretty smart. Because it covered all the stuff I had questions about the 50%.
It was a good breakdown, in other words.
Oh, yeah, it was an excellent breakdown. It told you 15% was gonna go for this, 27%, you know, I mean, it.
Well, here's the rub, Jim. We know that since 1991, approximately $600 million has always been funneled some kind of way extra to state police. So,
I'll tell you what, that was really pounded
well, people are sick
in
of
that
it.
committee meeting.
People are sick of it. And then the idiot troopers lose 27 of those valuable units in the August flood due to stupidity. You can drive the car. It's called crank and move it back to the station where it's high ground. No, they let those units, and then here's the best part. They probably totaled those 27 units and the computer systems and anything else that was in it, and now we had to pay to replace those 27 units.
You're looking at 80 million or 80,000 per vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Easy.
So let's see, 47, so that means we've paid for 54 state trooper units, computers, all the beefed up, and this another thing too. I don't know if you know this or not, but those trooper units have full onboard computer.
Oh, yeah.
And full laser printer and scanner and copier and fax and hotspot and modem in that unit. All wired in. Yes. And there's no telling what other equipment they lost too.
Here's a good one off of the subject of all this other bull. Forget Fox sex claims. We just discovered what CNN is trying to hide.
Yeah, I saw that CNN has been busy.
Over the past few months, we've been treated to salacious stories of sexual misconduct at Fox News, resulting in resignations of top female on-air talent, the departure of executives Roger Ailes and Bill Shine, and the coup de grace, the end of Bill O'Reilly's reign as the primetime king. One would think that Fox News, for whatever reason, is ground zero for employee mistreatment, because you never hear of any wrongdoing at, say, CNN, for example.
That's because they control the news narratives.
Yeah. According to the Daily Wire, a massive class action suit has been filed against the network alleging racial discrimination is now up to 175 plaintiffs, current and former employees.
Good Lord.
The Daily Wire quotes the New York Post. Minority employees had to endure bigoted remarks such as it's hard to manage black people and who would be worth more, black slaves from times past or new slaves. According to a complaint by former workers Celeste Henley and Ernest Colbert Jr. filed in Atlanta federal court, Colbert Jr. also claims he was paid thousands less than white colleagues as a manager at the affiliated Turner Broadcasting System. Henley, a former CNN executive assistant, says she was fired in 2014 for complaining that black employees were being paid less than their white counterparts. The number of people now suing CNN is 10 times higher than those suing Fox, writes Kim McCourt on Mediate. Yet how many stories have you read about that?
That's because they control the narrative.
As the Daily Caller points out, good old Jake Tapper has apparently overlooked the lawsuits at his own network Glass House as he throws stones at Fox. See, people.
Oh, I saw something today you would be interested in, Jim. The Fox ratings have taken a nosedive,
Really?
and the Murdoch brothers have finally taken notice that they're leaking money like the Titanic was leaking water. And they haven't figured out, well, let's see. You get rid of Bill O'Reilly, who was the big money maker of the place. You allow all kind of concocted false narratives to get rid of all sorts of different people. You take the network on a communist slant, and now you wonder why us deplorables don't want to watch it and people don't want to advertise? Confusing, isn't it?
It's
Amazing.
it is.
It's amazing. I hope they break them. I hope they lose all their money and it breaks them.
This sheet shows a red America.
And it's very red.
Red America. Okay? This will be 2020. If you put all the pieces together here, what you get, the DNC rigs the, I think I printed this out so I could read it. Oh yeah, I did. It's so small. I mean, here are the facts. If you put all the pieces together, here's what you get. The DNC rigs the Democratic primary election against Bernie Sanders so Hillary can win the nomination. Obama's administration starts to request surveillance on Trump, his family, his transition team, and anyone associated with. Donna Brazile gives Hillary the questions to a debate against Bernie. The DNC pays Christopher Steele to come up with a smear dossier about Trump. The mainstream media releases a taped conversation about Trump talking about grabbing women's parts. After all, this Trump still wins the general election. Obama orders an investigation into Russian meddling in our elections. Obama changes Executive Order 12333 to allow more agencies to have access to surveillance. The Democratic Party comes up with a scandal that Trump colluded with Russia to win the election with no evidence or proof. This wild claim is backed up by mainstream media. Obama holds over, start unmasking Trump's information to the mainstream. Why? Because the DNC and Obama colluded with the intelligence community to thwart Trump's campaign efforts to get him elected president. All this Russian collusion is an attempt to cover up the fact that Obama administration, the intelligence community, the DNC, and along with the mainstream media, used our nation's surveillance as a political tool to try to get Hillary elected president. This makes Watergate look like a kindergarten play.
Well said.
You see, people,
Well said.
this was a great article, and I like, it shows all the states red. even California.
They're pushing more people to be deplorables. It's,
I didn't get to the state
Karma.
police stuff tonight,
we'll have that for next week.
but I will keep it. We have one thing here, we're going back to 2014.
Well, those legislative auditors, from my understanding, are over there digging up all the dirt, and it's not going to be pretty
Oh.
at all.
No. Have you heard anything on the 18 that got subpoenaed, or?
No,
I
That's been
haven't
real
heard
quiet.
Anything, they've been quiet
that's
on
been
that.
real quiet.
You know, you can't look anywhere today where there isn't something
Yeah, there's corruption everywhere.
everywhere. I ran into my good friend Bob Henskin over there in Ways and Means Committee, and he's one of the good guys, by the way. He's no tax, period. So we can depend on him. Listen, tomorrow night, Brett has his meeting. You need to make the meeting. And believe me, people, you learn a lot at the meeting on various subjects. God bless all of you.